Let's get you a live update of the situation on the ground now. Bring in Karinda, Jagmohan, who's part of our team, who's been watching developments for a couple of days now. Karinda, live to us from Ladysmith. And as a start, Karinda, help us place and locate where you are and what you're seeing.
Certainly. Good morning to you, Ayanda. Well, we're at on the riverbank, which overflowed 3 days ago, resulting in that flash flood that occurred. Ultimately, 6 people died in Ladysmith. The Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department, which we just heard from, indicated that overall in KwaZulu-Natal, 7 people have died. Of course, they're accounting the tragic death that occurred in Mandeni, which is just under 4 hours from Ladysmith, where an 8-year-old girl died while trying to cross a low-lying bridge there. At that point, a 37-year-old man also went missing, but he's since been found. But here in Ladysmith, the numbers on the ground from the search and rescue teams are that 6 people, the bodies of 6 people, were found on Christmas Day. Yesterday, they made no recovery in terms of bodies. It was quite still a rainy day, and my colleague Gifton Kosi will just show you the river as it is. This is part of the Belspruit River that leads into the Klip River, and right now you'll see the water is much more calm than what we saw yesterday, where the water was gushing through still from the torrential rain that had occurred just 2 days prior. So this would of course make it a bit easier for rescue teams to actually go into this water to continue their search and give much better conditions to family members who have been scouring the river banks to also continue their search as well. As you see, there's still debris on the river bank. You see there's a jacket, an orange jacket, that belonged to someone that washed up here, and we're seeing similar debris all over. What's interesting is now, in this 3rd day, in the aftermath of the flood, we see how this disaster occurred. For example, if you look at this tree that's now cut off, this tree had actually collapsed onto this road. Disaster teams had to come and actually extract this tree. You can still see the debris lying on the ground, and it went over this road and damaged part of this bridge, the rails of this bridge here. So that was just some of what happened 3 days ago in the aftermath of the flood. Now, we understand that today the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs will be on the ground. They'll be visiting some of the families who lost loved ones and also get an update from search and rescue teams with regards to what next. Yesterday, members of IPSS told us that because the current of the water was so strong, so severe, they couldn't actually get into the water to continue their search, looking for at least 11 people who are missing right now. But the numbers are still differentiating between various groups. For example, Kokta has reported that 10 people are missing. On the ground, we hear that 11 people are missing. It is still just 3 days after the flood occurred, and so people are still coming through to say or to clarify some of these reports as well. But when the MEC comes, we expect after 12 o'clock to give us a definitive update of what has happened, because she will meet with all the teams that have been attending to this situation in Ladysmith at 12, and then go on to visit some of the family members. It's a much quieter day in Ladysmith. It's not raining as severely as it was yesterday. There's about a 5% chance of rain, so some drizzle is expected, but a much better opportunity to go, especially for families who are insisting to walk on the riverbanks and look for their family members. We were with the Mtembu family yesterday. The conditions are a bit easier, a bit more easier to walk on the riverbanks as well to continue their search, because it was quite dangerous for them yesterday, considering the severity of the gushing water here. So it is a bit more calm, but the damage is, as I look around, there is a lot of damage, especially on the riverbanks, and we will later go to some of the community halls where some flood victims are staying because their houses were damaged, especially in Caravan Park. We were there just yesterday, where we saw massive damaged houses that were swept away, just pieces of wood lying all over there. A father and his 2 children were swept away. Only the body of the daughter has been found, so rescues are still looking for the father and child. But of course, throughout the day, we'll give you live updates with regards to how this matter is unfolding later.
And anybody watching Karinda who feels like they're having a moment of deja vu will be forgiven because we've been here before. What do we know so far about how those who've been affected by this latest round of heavy downpours are going to be accommodated in a context where there are backlogs still in accommodating victims of previous flash floods?
Certainly, we were here in Ladysmith last year in January when there was a major flood that occurred and the Klip River had overflown its banks, burst through its banks rather, covering part of the Ladysmith CBD. The area we're in is just a few kilometers outside of that, and some say that it's the first time they've seen such a flood here because the nature of this part of the community is not as congested as the CBD, where there's no way for the water to actually drain out. At that point, the mayor did indicate that drainage systems need to be updated. But like you mentioned, back in 2022 as well, in April, the floods that ravaged parts of KZN, especially the eastern parts of the province, the northeastern parts of the province, saw many people displaced from their homes. They were moved to community shelters with the promise of better accommodation being built for them. But in that case, there are still many who've not been moved to homes. There has been a conversation earlier this year with the Human Settlements MEC, newly appointed, who spoke about land parcels that are still being searched for, still contracts that are being developed for land parcels. But that's just land parcels. There still needs to be building that must take place, and to ensure that those who were displaced are the ones that get the keys to new houses. So there are still many that are living in situations where they are in danger because of the area that they live. For example, many people living on riverbanks like this one in structures that are not appropriate for the severe weather patterns that we're experiencing. But socio-economic issues that they're faced with means that they can't afford to move elsewhere, especially when there's a call to move away from riverbanks or to move to higher grounds when there's imminent flooding or torrential rain and flooding. Many people don't have a place to go, and that's certainly what has been happening as we see more such disasters occur countrywide here in KwaZulu-Natal. A number of floods that have occurred over the past year in various places, but there are those incidents that are extremely deadly, like what we saw in April, one of the deadliest natural disasters in the country's recent history, as well as here now in Ladysmith, perhaps one of the deadliest such incidents as well in recent history for this town specifically. The mayor is expected to shed more light from it, but there has also been a call for better infrastructure to be able to manage what we're seeing now, which is more severe weather patterns. And certainly there are people that are placed in community halls in Ladysmith. We will go to them to speak to them because right now they need shelter to either rebuild their homes or they need assistance if they can't afford to do so to get a better house that is built to withstand some of the weather patterns we've been seeing in recent years.
On this developing story.